My guest today is Raga Olga de Silva. She has 25 years of experience in the creative field, and Raga has worked in senior positions in advertising in India and New Zealand and has been a recipient of several prestigious awards. She is a host of several online shows, including Coming Out Stories from India. She is a known advocate in the LGBT space, a two times TEDx speaker. She's an established voice in the LGBT community and engages with corporates around the world on intersectionality. I always struggle saying that word. LGBT, lived experience, and being aware of our unconscious biases. She is currently writing 3 books, scripts for OTT, web series, and working on her first short film. So welcome to the show, Raga. How lovely to have you with us. How are you?
Thank you, Madeleine. So lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
It's an absolute pleasure. So because the show is called Unbroken, the first question I ask all of my guests is, what does the word unbroken mean to you?
Unbroken means that we have to actually acknowledge that we've been broken at some point. And I was thinking, actually, we get broken at many points in our lives. You know, in my case, I'll just give my example. My mother's rejection of my sexual orientation 20 years ago broke me, let's say, because your own mother, you expect her to accept, acknowledge, and support you. At that time, much later, I was dating another woman who basically physically broke me. She beat me so much over the 2 years. I think that broke me within. And we don't talk about domestic violence in such intimate relationships
Yeah.
ever.
And
Then
especially with same-sex partners, people don't
ex
assume that takes place.
exactly, and especially between two women, it's like, how can you be seen as gentler? And then there are many other things that break you, and has broken me over the years. And there are little things, even the fact that I had to leave my marriage because I was confused, I was unhappy, that also broke me. And I really thought to myself, have I remained unbroken? And I feel that I think there were lots of pieces of me that broke 15 years ago, and like lots and lots of little pieces. And when my partner Nicola came into my life, as I say, I think she built me back together. She put me back together. And so I think for me, breaking and unbroken basically means that you put yourself back together in the best version and create a best version of you. And I say, like, I think I'm an artist today because I've created a better version of myself, a version that I acknowledge, I understand, and I totally embrace. And so I think I remain unbroken, but broken as well, and with a new version of me.
There's a real paradox going on there for you then, isn't it? I'm unbroken, but unbroken, and recognizing all those pieces, but without all those pieces, you wouldn't be the unbroken beauty that you are today. Yes, so we will get into your story soon, but let's go back to the beginning. You grew up in the slums of India, and your father died when you were just 6 years old, and your mum brought you up with your 2 siblings.
That's right. That's right. Interesting, because my mom and dad actually got married against their family wishes. In fact, it was my father who came. In India, you have this whole caste system and you have this class system as well. And so my father was more affluent, let's say, than my mother. And they decided to get married. So my father's family at that time ostracized him. So they had to come to Mumbai and they had to start life from scratch. And at that time, they had no other place but to live in like a tin shed, basically. So I grew up in nothing but a tin shed, I'd say, in a 10 by 10 feet home, which is maybe as big as the bathrooms we have these days in London. And London houses are small. And but it
And
was an
that's 5 of you though. That's not just
yes,
you
that's
grew
right.
up.
That's
Yeah,
right.
it's a whole
That's right.
family grew up in the size of a bathroom.
Exactly, exactly. It was an interesting experience. My father was an alcoholic, unfortunately, and he was very young, of course, when he passed away. But before that, he was bedridden for about 3 years, Madeline. And I remember my mother, locking the door, keeping me with my dad because my siblings would go to school, and she would lock the door from outside. So all day I would be with a drunk father on that single bed, which we later in the night shared, all 5 of us. And I thought that is how dads were. The dads drank all day and they slept all day, and then occasionally they would wake up and they would fall off the bed.
You speak about how the rumors started coming out and how you were being accosted by people. In fact, you were really badly attacked when you were out shopping by an older woman who really gave you a terrible time. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so one morning I was with my children. Again, at that time they would have been about 5.5 years old. I
Hmm.
can't really remember which year it was. And we were at the grocery store, and I was just looking at some snacks for my son. And suddenly somebody just came. It happened so quickly, Madeline. I could just see from the corner of my eye, somebody coming towards me. I'm quite short. I'm 5'1". She was even tinier than me.
Hmm.
And all I could see was the sari clad woman came, pushed me, everything fell on me. My kids started crying. It was like a chaotic, mad time. And then suddenly she spat on me, she kicked me, she called me a home breaker. She said, "You bloody lesbian." And I was thinking, like, what's happening? Whose home have I broken? And what do you know about me when I don't know about me? I was so petrified. I just picked up my kids. The crowds had gathered. Nobody did anything. No social media those days. So no one to click a photo, and thank God for that. I
Hmm.
got into my car and I just rushed home. And I still remember that fear. And I didn't get out of my home for 7 days. I just couldn't get out of bed. I was so scared. Would peep out of the window every few minutes to see whether somebody had followed us home. But things got even worse. My car window would be broken. I would wake up to lesbian written on near my office. Once I left something in my car and things got stolen, but it was not just stolen, with little letters written, notes written.
Hmm.
See what we will do. So there were threats in many ways.
And this was mainly from the Indian community in New
So
Zealand.
well, some of it from the Indian community, but the others also actually joined in. And I think when I look back, I think they found it hard to understand how, this Indian family, when you come from as an immigrant Indian family,
Hmm.
let's say, people have this picture of you, perfect family, husband, wife, two children. And here they felt that I was the one who had decided to leave the marriage. So they made that assumption. All these things. And then because you don't have the courage to leave something behind because of whatever the conditioning is, you want other people to do the same. I'm sorry. That's the life you choose. We all don't want to choose that life for ourselves.
Absolutely. I have a friend who married two women first. He did end up having two children with his first wife, and then he finally came out as gay, and he has a husband now. But why did you keep quiet for so long? Just the shame. And you
Yeah.
think, but it's really okay, you know. And I think it's a judgment that we assume people are doing, but also how much we judge ourselves. That's the hard one to really come to terms with, isn't it? We are our worst enemy at times, really, aren't we?
Yeah, Madeline, but why are we that?
Yeah.
It's like you said earlier, one is about conditioning and what other people have
Yes.
perceived us to be. That's what my book talks about. Like the second chapter is about selfish, like somebody else has decided for you who you are.
Yeah.
And we live that life for the rest of our lives thinking, oh, I am that person because my mother thought I was that person, or my sister thought I was that person. My best friend thinks I am that. So I must be that. It takes a long time to find yourself,
It
then
does.
to unlearn it, and then you have to relearn something that is right
I
for you.
think that that's so important that we have to unlearn a lot of what we've been taught. A
Yes.
lot. Yeah. So we're
Yeah.
kind of coming to the end of our interview here. It kind of whizzes by so quick. Anybody that's listening in now, what advice or last words would you like to leave with people?
Yeah, I don't really give advice because that's not my place. But I would say that, closets are really for clothes,
Yeah.
not to hide your truth. And, I grew up in the saying by Mahatma Gandhi, and he said that be the change you want to see in the world. And I've changed that a bit. And I think that people talk about love, they talk about respect, they talk about so many different values. And I say, be the love you want to see in the world. I think that will help us be better, kinder humans. It's so simple, right, Madeline? I mean, people say, "Oh, but how can I be an ally?" We are all allies to some cause. To be an ally, we don't need a manual to say, "Okay, this is what," and because they ask me for tips. To be an ally, it's very simple: kindness and empathy. What more do we need? And that's something that we have inside us. We just have to make
Absolutely.
sure that we remember that every day.
Hatred can't exist when it's met with compassion or kindness or empathy.
Exactly, and
Absolutely.
respect for each other, right? That's important. Just it's simple. If I really love your story. I think you've been through so much. I cannot even imagine. So I say that show respect. It's important. and don't speak for me. For instance, I cannot speak for you. A lot of people speak on behalf of me, and I will tell the listeners, don't speak on behalf of the LGBTQ community unless you have been through that lived experience.
Absolutely.
We will do that, narration for ourselves.
Oh, and there are my co-hosts barking away just as we end our interview. So a wonderful place to end. Be the love. So Raga, it just leaves me to say thank you so much for coming on Unbroken podcast today.
Thank you, Madeleine. I wish Unbroken the very best, and I hope we keep putting the pieces together.
We will do. Thank you.
Thank you.